Your mic's okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
This is fantastic. Okay. Uh, we are calling to order the Conference Committee of House Legislative Modernization and Senate Fed and State dealing with Senate substitute for House Bill 2313. Is there a revisor that you would prefer to speak to the bill?
I mean, our advisor, Jason Long, or Natalie, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So House Bill 2313, the way it left the House was it prohibited DeepSeek, the AI company, from being used on state devices and state-run networks. And then the Senate Committee on Federal and State Affairs added a provision about genetic sequencers and not allowing those to be no medical facility or research facility would be able to use a genetic sequencer that was produced by a country of concern. So those are the two topics that you have in front of you. And if you have any specific questions, one of us could take those.
Well, we put two bills together. We got 2213 over, and we actually had a hearing, as you recall, on the genetic sequencing, which was at 238?
234.
Or 234, Senate Bill 234. And we had that hearing. We did not have a formal hearing scheduled on the DeepSeek, the House Bill 2313. So as you recall, the day before we actually did put the two bills together, I asked the committee to take a look at 2313 and decide whether or not, read the bill, decide whether or not they needed to have a hearing or if they felt comfortable with putting those two bills together. And after the committee came back the next day, we talked about it and had a good discussion. We decided they fit together because they were both AI bills, both bills with regard to countries of concern, foreign adversaries, if you will. And so those two bills fit together and had a good discussion about that. And that's where we put those two bills together into this House bill.
And thank you for that, sir. Natalie, the question that I have concerning 2313, it deals with the provision at the top of it, the whereas it says that it's an act, the description rather, says that it's an act concerning technology. Is it fair to say that this particular bill would, if you read that particular statement, where it talks about artificial intelligence platforms of concern on state-issued devices and networks, prohibiting the use of it, as well as prohibiting the use of medical research facilities from using genetic sequencers or as well on those same state networks and devices, that technology. Is that a tying thread in your estimation as well?
Mr. Chairman, the DeepSeek provision certainly is about state-issued devices and state networks. The genetic sequencing provision, that is about medical facilities and research facilities in this state. So they wouldn't necessarily be, some of them could be operating on state-run networks and using state-run devices, but it also applies to private ones as well. So, and Jason, I don't know if you have any other type of comment or just, if you agree with that, but.
I would just add the nexus in putting these two bills together on the Senate side was the act concerning technology produced by certain foreign countries. The nexus is the production of this technology by foreign countries, whether they're countries of concern or foreign adversaries. It's certain foreign countries producing either the AI technology or the genetic sequencers. That was the nexus that I think the Senate relied upon to put the two bills together.
Yeah, so it's kind of two different things because you've got state platforms prohibiting the use of that technology, and then you've got the medical facilities prohibiting the use of technology, again, both from the countries of concern.
And I didn't start with my pleasantries. I'm so sorry. Do forgive me. It's a first time, Senator. Oh my goodness. Do forgive. Charge it to my head and not to my heart. Just wanted to say thank you so much for meeting with us here today.
No, we appreciate it.
I'm kind of focused and geared toward getting this done, so we have to get back up onto the floor, and I know you guys have some things to do as well.
4 o'clock if
Too,
you-
too easy. So I'll cut to the chase, Senator. What I am thinking, friends, is that what we do is we take the Senate substitute for House Bill 2313, and we take your position on it where you have the deep seek and the genetic sequencing on it. But as we've been discussing, a difference of thought on what the nexus is between those two bills, as the revisers have said, would be on the AI, would be on the countries of concern. That's the common language that they have. Our position is that we feel that the common language for what we want to do, and that deals with House Bill 2271. We sent that over to you all 123-0 on the 20th of February. That is a big bill, and the biggest change is the same as Senate Bill 291 from last year. We all blessed off on that. It was signed into law, Senate Bill 291. The problem that we have with it is that when it came out of legislative modernization and across the House floor last year, is 290 in that phase, it did not have at the time a sunset on the provision. That was added on, and we'd like to remove that. House Bill 2271 does remove that. It also has language in it that was asked by the JCIT, the Joint Committee on Information Technology, that met today at noon, I think it was, to have them as a report out function authority for everything that comes out of that cybersecurity bill as well. Because that bill deals with government networks in the state of Kansas, as well as the technology that can ride on that network being purchased or approved to be on it, I think that that is the common thread, if you will, between all three of these bills. And what we'd like to do very quickly, if we may, is roll in 2271 into your substitute that has 2313 on it. And that way you have everything that you want. We get what we need. The only other piece is I gave you a shell. I think that we have concurred with your last conferees that you were with. It was Senate sub for House sub 2060. Senate sub for House sub 2060. That particular bill originated again over in House Legislative Modernization with us, and at the time when we created the House sub, it was some language that was given to us by the judicial CETO, their chief information technology officer. And it was approved language. It made it out of committee. It made it across the floor of the House as well. Again, 123-0 for that one as well. And what we'd like to do is have that language, even though it was taken out, right, and replaced, we'd like to have that language, since it's pertinent to 2271, again, rolled in as well. So what we're asking is to have that 2271 and the contents that we had before of 2060 rolled into 2313.
Here's our concern with doing that. The CETO, that big bill with the JCIT and everything you guys have worked on, we haven't had a hearing in Fed and State. We haven't had a chance to consider all the options on that. I understand the concern about the sunset, but there's time. That sunset's July of next year. And so that would give us time to actually have a hearing if we could do it early in session next year. So I understand the feeling of urgency with that, but I also know that if I'm going to try to explain that on the floor and we haven't had a hearing, it's going to blow up. I just could not sell that to the caucus because we haven't had the hearing. That's usually going to be the first question out of their mouth. Have you had a hearing on this bill? Well, no. And then you're trying to explain a big bill in caucus, adding to something that we've already actually passed through. So I'm very uncomfortable agreeing to that. I wish I could, because I know there's a lot of important things in that bill. But with regard to that, I would promise that we'll have that hearing early next year. This year we had, because it's an off year for election, we had so many bills regarding election law that we had to get done, and it really pushed us up against the wall time-wise. And so I don't think it would be wise to try to do that at this point, as much as I would like to help out with that. But I think it'd be better off, and you're going to get a better result on the floor on the Senate side if we allow the Fed and State Committee to have a hearing, let all the members consider it, and then we can sell that on the floor, get it across the floor, and try to do that early before that sunset runs out next year so that we don't have that concern. Again, I wish we could do better, but after thinking it over, I just think we're going to run into real concerns on the Senate side trying to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And sir, thank you so much, Senator, for that. And I appreciate your measured approach to considering what our request has been. But for us, time is of the essence, and we're kind of firm on making sure that this particular bill gets out this year. If the Senate has already considered 291 across the floor to have it signed into law and sent to the governor last year, this is the exact same language. The only thing that has changed on it is 2 lines or 1 phrase and one provision. The 1 provision is the striking of the sunset. That shouldn't be hard to explain. And reporting out to the JCIT that a number of the members of the Senate sit on as well. And that's something that they recommended out of that committee. So we're trying to do their work for them. So that shouldn't be a problem either. So we're kind of firm on that this one has to come out.
Unfortunately, we're kind of firm on it can't. We have virtually a completely new committee, with the exception of my vice chair and I. The committee members have not heard that bill. And so, like I said, I think we can address it early in the session next year, try to alleviate the concerns with the sunset, certainly. But I think the committee members would appreciate being able to have a hearing. I would like to get this out, because I think, we pushed the envelope a little bit by not having the hearing on DeepSeek, but allowing the committee to read it over, and it was a short enough bill. It was like a page and a half, I think. Not a big bill, because when you get into the Chief Information Technology Officer, CISO, people start having a lot of questions. Even though we're dealing with sunsets, they start wondering, okay, what are we actually doing? And have the parties involved be able to weigh in. I'm just very uncomfortable, unfortunately.
Yes, sir.
But if we can agree on this today, we're ready to go.
I can appreciate the uncomfortability, but I stand back on the piece that, this bill was sent over to your committee back on the 20th of February. Went to the Senate on the 20th of February.
2313?
2271.
2270.
Yeah, well, it passed out of, I'm sorry, let me correct myself. It passed out of the House on 20 February. It was sent to the Senate 5 days later, the 25th. It hit Senate, Fed, and State on the 25th of February. We are now a month hence to consider 1 line of text. That's a month of time. That was what we used last year to say that we wouldn't hear 291, which is why the sunset was actually instituted. So the House position is that we can't deal with that, not this year, not a second year in a row. So we're good on this one then. If you guys can't budge and help us to move 2271 and 2060 into your substitute for 2313, then I guess this is shorter than what we anticipated.
Sorry, we can't budge.
Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.